Finnegans Wake, Book 2, Chapter 4. 3 quarks for Muster Mark. Sure he hasn't got much of a bark, and sure any he has, it's all beside the mark. But oh, Ren Eagle Almighty, wouldn't uns be a sky of a lark to see that old buzzard whooping around for uns shirt in the dark, and he hunting round for uns speckled trousers round by Palmerstown Park. Ho, 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 Multi Mark. You're the rummest old rooster ever flopped out of a Noah's Ark, and you think you're the cock of the wark. Fowls up! Tristy's the spry young spark that'll tread her and wed her and bed her and red her, without ever winking the tail of a feather. And that's how that chap's going to make his money and mark. Overhoved, shrill glee screaming, that song sang sea swans, the winging ones, sea hawk, seagull, curlew and plover, kestrel and capercailzie, all the birds of the sea, they trolled out right bold when they smacked the big cuss of trustin' with Iseult. And there they were too, when it was dark, whilst the wild caps was circling, as slow their ship, the winds aslight, upborne the fates, the Wardorse moved, by courtesy of Mr. Joe below, down below, Camper Sally, listening in as hard as they could in Doubledorp the Donker, by the tourney-old of the waterfalls, with their volksin, and they kemin in so hat a jockey, only a quarter-buck a skull for the last axe, to the solins and the sycamores and the wild geese and the gannets and the migratories and the missel thrushes and the auspices and all the birds of the rock be sucrasucio ocean or sea, all 4 of them, all sighing and sobbing and listening, moikula hoikling. They were the big 4, the 4 master waves of Erin, all listening for. There was old Matt Gregory, and then besides old Matt, there was old Marcus Lyons, the 4 waves, and oftentimes they used to be saying grace together right enough. Bosna Beatha in Miracle Square. Here now we are, the 4 of us, old Matt Gregory, and old Marcus, and old Luke Tarpey, the 4 of us, and sure, thank God, there are no more of us. And sure now, you wouldn't go and forget and leave out the other fellow, and old Johnny McDougall, the 4 of us, and no more of us, and so now pass the fish for Christ's sake, amen. The way they used to be saying their grace before fish, repeating itself after the interims of Augsbury for Auld Lang Syne. And so there they were, with their palms in their hands, like the Pokram's Procles, spraining their ears, loosening and listening to the oceans of kissing, with their eyes glistening, all the 4, when he was kiddling and cuddling and bunny-hugging, scrumptious as Colleen Bawn and Dinkum Bell and Oscar's sister, on the 15-inch love seat, behind the chieftain as stewardess Cubbin, the hero of Gaelic champion, the onlyest one of her choice, her blue-eyed ideal of a girl's friend, neither big ugly nor small nice, meaning pretty much everything to her then, with his sinister dexterity, light and roughed handling, vicem versum, her rags bags at associatiums fore and aft, on and off sides, the brew burnt sex fodder, hands on and hunt Sam, that was palpably wrong and bobably improper, and cuddling her and kissing her tutti fait charmante in her ensemble of Maidana blue, with an overdress of net tickled with goldies, Isola, misola, and wisping and lisping her about trees solanisons, how 1 was whips for 1 was 2, and 2 was lips for 1 was 3, and dissimulating themselves with his pogue like Aaron a pogue, the dear, dear annual. They all 4 remembered who made the world, and how they used to be at that time in the vulgar ear, cuddling and kiddling her after an oyster supper in Cullen's barn, from under her missel thrush, and kissing and listening in the good old bygone days of John Bogiecole the elder and Aranapog, in the other world of the passing of the key of Two-Tongue Common, with Nush, the carrier of the word, and with Mesh, the cutter of the reed, in one of the far-back, pitch-black centuries, when who made the world, when they knew O'Clery, the man on the door, when they were all four collegians on the nod, near the Netherlands nursery, white boys and oak boys, peep of Tim boys and piping Tom boys, raising hell while the sun was shining, with their slates and satchels playing Floridian's fables and communic suctions and Veliker frictions with mixum members in the Queen's Oltonian colleges, along with another fellow, a prime number, Tocius Quocius, and paying a pot of triblets to Boris O'Brien, the butler of Clump Thump, 2 loaves, 2 turnovers, plus 1 crown, to see the mad Dane eating his vitals, woof, woof, and throwing his tongue in the snake pit. Ah ho, the ladies have mercious. It brought the dear prehistoric scenes all back again, as fresh as of yore, Matt and Marcus, natural-born lovers of nature, and all her moves and senses, and after that now there he was, the mouth of mandibles, vowed to pure beauty, and his Aaron a pogue, when she murmurously, after she let the cough, gave her firm order, if he wouldn't please mind, for a sings to one hope a dozen of the best favourite lyrical national blooms in love illicit, though not too much, reflecting on the situation, drinking in draughts of purest air serene, and revelling in the great outdoors, before the 4 of them, in the fair fine night, whilst the stars shine bright, by the she light of he moon, we long to be spoon, before her honey old loom, the plaint effect being in point of fact, there being in the whole a sea tuition so shocking and scandalous, and now, thank God, there were no more of them, and he pogging and pogging like the moriner, bowed his crusted hoard, and Tilly the tailors tugged a tat in the Arctic News' Dag's dogs number, and there they were, like a 4 masters in the rows, listening to Rolando's deep in Darblin Ocean row. Lady, it was just too gorgeous, that expense of a lovely tint, embellished by the charms of art, and very well conducted and nicely mannered, and all the horrid Rudy noises locked up in nasty cubby hole. As they tired as they were, the 3 jolly topers, with their mouths watering, all the 4, the old connubial men of the sea, yambing around with their old pentameter, in Doxolopics, Luke and Johnny McDougall, and all wishing for anything at all of the bygone times, the wild times, and the foul times, and the hempty times, and the dempty times, for a cup of kindness yet, for 4 far back tumblerfuls of woman squash, with them all 4, listening and spraining their ears for the millennium, and all their mouths making water. Johnny. Ah, well, sure, that's the way. Up, and it so happened there was poor Matt Gregory, up, their pater familias, and up the others, and now really, and up, truly, they were 4 dear old ladies, and really they looked awfully pretty, and so nice and bespectable, and after that had they fathom glasses to find out all the fathoms, and their half a tall hat, just now like the old Marcus of Powershoof, the old determined despo, quiescence and brog, only for the extrusion of the salt water, or the auctioneer there dormant in front of the place near O'Clery's, at the dark Mound number 1, beside that ancient Dame Street, where the statue of Mrs. Dana O'Connell, prostituent behind the Trinity College, that arranges all the auctions of the valuable colleges. Booters Bay sisters, like the auctioneer Battersby sisters, the promiscuous creatures, that sells all the emancipated statues and flowers ports, James H. Tickell, the J.P., of Hagan Green, after he made the centuries, going to the tail-turn horse show, before the Angler Nomads flood, along with another fellow, active, impulsive, and the shoe-blacks, and the red-shanks, and the plebeians, and the barrencoes, and the carpenter's children, Jules. Everyone got a poxy, with a howers on them, high-stepping the fissured and fracture lines. 7-5, 3's up, 3, 5, 7s down, to get out of his way, on as muck as their withers conditions could not possibly have been improved upon. Praisers be to DCC, like hoppopocketals, erupting around their judgety yamen, and all the tercenary horses and priest hunters from the Cora, and Confucianaries and the authorities, North Americans and Swede African cattle raiders, so they say, all over like a tiara del fuoco, in his grey half-a-tall hat, and his amber necklace, and his crimson harness, and his leathern jib, and his cheap shine hair shirt, and his Scottabrit sash, and his Pelagian gallo glasses. How do you do, J.P.? Elevato, to find out all the improper colleges. And how do you do, Mr. Dame James? Get out of my way. Fork-bearded and blue-toothed and bellied and boneless, from Strathclyde and Aylesbury and Northumberland Anglesey, the whole Yahoo dirt sweepstakings and all the horsepowers. But now, talking of Highestanners and Wokingology and how our seaborn isle came into existence, the ex-Bluter, his 3 Andesiters and the 2 Pantalarias, that reminds me about the manosteriums of the poor Marquis of Lyons and poor Johnny, the patrician. And what do you think of the 4 of us? And there they were now, listening right enough, the 4 saltwater widowers, and all they could remember long, long ago in the olden times Mammonian. Throw darker our sorrows, the Princess Day, when fair Margaret waited sweet Willem, and Lally in the rain, with the blank prince, now extinct, after the reek of Warman's no, the bar mesides, when my heart knew no care. And after that, then, there was the official landing of Lady Giles' casemate, in the year of the flood 1132, SOS, and the christening of Queen Baltersby, the 4th Buzzersby, according to her grace the bishop senior, off the Whaite shape. And then there was the drowning of Pharaoh and all his pedestrians, and they were all completely drowned into the sea, the Red Sea. And then poor Merkin Corningham, the official out of the castle on pension, when he was completely drowned off Erin Isles at that time, swear knows, in the Red Sea, and the lovely morning paper, and thank God, as Salmon said, there were no more of him. And that now is how it was. The Arzurian deeps o'er his hum-da-dum-bone sweeps, and his witty the giddy is wreathing her memoirs, as her grace is tripet to the grocery traders monthly. Mine man Gunfrey by Gladys Rayburn, Runtables reincorporated, the New World presses, where the old conch cruise now croons the yonk. Ex-yonk throw a daddis cram of lawn rock, ye gink guy, gurked into yord, and terrorist at a wonder weapon, luft cat revol, fair escapading in his natsert. To as he tumbles, and mild Aunt Liza is as loose as her knees. Full fest with an embrace behent, as Ghent would deem uncontinent. So moked per wench is Elsker woad, ne hath his thrusting fin, like the Newcasters in their old pliable of a royen divorce. Jazz a phony and mere office, and nippy she nets best. Fing. Aye, Sobos. And so he was. Sabas. Marcus. And after that, not forgetting, there was the Flemish Armada, all scattered, and all officially drowned there and then on a lovely morning after the universal flood at about 11:32, was it? Off the coast of Coming Home, and St. Patrick, the Anabaptist, and St. Kevin the Lacustrian, with too much of tolls and lots of beggars, with converting Porter Scout and Donna, the first Marins, and Napoleon the equestrian on his white horse of Hanover, rising clunked earth over cabin hogging, and all they remembered, and there was the Frankish flute of Noah's Dobas from Hidalgoland, round about the freebutter year of Notre Dame, 1132, PPO or so. Disunbunking from under Motham General Bonaboche, new poopery in his half a grey traditional hat, à la voile comme à la ville. And after that there he was, so terrestrial, like a nailed scissor, poking her scandalous and very wrong, the maid, in single combat, under the sycamores, amid the blutterings from the boom, and all the gallows birds, and Aranapog, so sylvestrious, near the Queen's Colleges, in 1132, Bryan or Bride Street, behind the Century Man on the door. And then again they used to give the grandest Gloria Panquast Universal How Mouther Hibbert lectures on anoxequi out of doxarchology. Hello, Hibernia, from sea to sea. Matt speaking, according to the picture's postcard, with sex on grammaticals, in the Latimer Roman history of Latimer repeating himself, from the vicereine of Lord Hugh, the Lantinant, till Buckley shuts the Raj on Genernel, and Regnum Rockery Roundup. Marcus Lyon speaking, to the oceansfuls of collegians green in high classes, and the poor scholars, and all the old Trinitarian senate and saints and sages, and the Plymouth brethren, droning along pianzang and nodding and sleeping away there, like forget-me-nots, in her Abidjan service, round their 12 tables, per pioja et pulga bolas, in the 4 Trinity colleges, for as you learning, erin grow black, of Ulster, Munster, Leinster, and Connaught, the 4 grandest colleges, supper the Mather of Erin, of kill o cure, and kill them all, and kill each other, and kill Kelly on the floor, where their role was to rule the round row that Rollo and Rulo rolled round. Those were the grandest Guyana college histories. Lucas calling, hold the line, in the Jane's Danes Lady Anders daughter University, in old acquaintance sake. This Unitarian lady, breathtaking beauty, Bam Bam's bonniest, lived to a great age at or about, in or about the late number 1132 or no 1169. Bis Fitz married round, where she was seen by many and widely liked for teaching the Fatima woman history of Fatimilia Familias, repeating herself, on which purposeth of the spirit of nature as divinely developed in time by Sada to follow me. The past and present, Johnny McDougall speaking, give me trunks, miss. And present and absent and past and present and perfect arm of Rumke Romano. Ah, dear, oh dear, oh weep for the hour when Eva leaves bower. How it did but all come eddying back to them, if they did but get gaze, gang, yang, to hear him there kiddling and cuddling her after the gouty old Galahad with his peer of Quinifears and his troad of Thurstons, so nefarious, from his elevation of 1 yard 132 lines before the 4 of us in his Roman Catholic arms, while his deep sea peepers gazed and sazed and days crazed mazed into her doluk bloon rodoling olushin iron bowls, by the Cornelius Nepos anumke napu. What? Ah, dear, oh dear, oh dear. Bows embraceth bright when gooses gandered gammon. Mahazar a dod. It was so scalding sorry for all the whole twice 2 4 of us, with their familiar, making the toten and lally when he lost part of his half a hat, and all belongings to him in his old futile manner, cape towel and drawbreeches, and repeating himself and telling him now for the sakes of senders' newsletters and the massacre of St. Bryce's to forget the past when the burglar he shoved the wretch in churner oil, and contradicting all about Lally, the ballast master of Gloucester's town, and his old fellow, the Lagoner, in the Loch Lane lighthouse, earing his wick with a pierce of rowling, and ligging hig with a ladder up in that old-time turner in his Saturday early cloudsing, the old croniony, skelly, with a leather belly, full of nelts, full of celts, full of lightweight belts, and all the baldrakes or ever he had up in the Bothereen, off Artsy Road, with Moles and Mamula Mularty, the man in the Oran Mosque, and the old folks at home, and Dwignum and Lapole, and the Grand Confederation, as per the Cabinger's Register, of the vilest archives, and he couldn't stop laughing over Tom Tim Tarpey, the Welshman, and the 4 middle-aged widowers, the Nangles, Sangles, Angles, and Wangles, and now that reminds me not to forget the 4 of the Welsh waves, leaping, laughing, in their lumbag walk, over old Battleshore in Deddleconks, in their half-a-Roman hat, with an ancient Greek gloss on it, Chichester College auction, and, thank God, they were all summarily divorced 4 years before, or so they say, by their dear poor she-husbands in dear byword days, and never brought to mind to see no more the rain-water on the floor, but still they parted, raining water laughing, per nupiter previous, only terpily, on the best of terms, and be forgot. Wilk was plainly foretold by their old pilgrim cockle song, or they were singing through their wettest Indies. As I was going to Baramy Carots, we fell in with a lout by the name of Peebles, as also in another place by their orthodox proverb, so there was said thus, that old fellow knows milk, though he's not used to it latterly. And so they parted in Dalkymont number 2. Aye, aye, the good go and the wicked is left over. As evil flows, so evil flows. Aye, aye. Ah, well, sure, that's the way. And the holy maid of Canute said to the hairy man of Combe, for his humble position in advices, woman, squash, part. Aye, aye, by decree absolute. Lucas. And, oh, so well they could remember at that time, when Carpery of the Gould Finns was in the kingship of Poole, and Mrs. Dowager Justice Squelchman, foresitter, in her full-bottom wig and beard, Erminia Regina, in her airing all around about the year of by and disgrace 1132, or 1169, or 1768 YWCA, at the married male family man's auctioneer's court in Aranacuddle. Poor Johnny of the clan of the Dougals, the poor squeetsman, Johannes, nothing if not amorous, dinna forget, so frightened, sweep, on account of her full bottom, undullable atrocity, that put of the Earl of Mercies on him, and the 4 masters in cors, with a hing behind them, because he was so slow to borstle her shoon for her, when he was grooming her ladyship, instead of back-scratching her mater familias proper, like any old Methodist, and all divorced and in a sense in their dict, in the middle of the temple, according to their dear faithful. Ah, now, it was too bad and stout entirely, all the massacres, and poor Mark and Marcus Bowen Cout, from Brownsbarrow in Nolan's land, the poor old chronometer, all persecuted with Ali Croker and everybody, by decree absolute, through Heron Sildy, because he forgot himself, making wind and water, and made a Neptune's mess of all of himself, sculling over the Geoman's causeway, and because he forgot to remember to sign in old morning proxy paper, a writing in request of her suit herself, on stamped bron and oleum, from Romeo to Juliet, before saying his grace before fish, and then and there and too there was poor Dion Cassius Pussycombe, all drowned too, before the world and her husband, because it was most improper and most wrong when he attempted to. Well, he was shocking poor in his health, he said, and with the shingles falling off him, because he are well now, pieces pea to Wedmore, and let not the song go dumb upon your ire, as we say in spasms of Davies, and we won't be too hard on him as an old Manx Presbyterian. And after that, as red as a Ross is, he made his last will and went to the confession, like the general of the Berkeleyites, at the rim of the Rum, on his 2 bare marrow bones, to her worship his mother and sister Evangelist Sweeney, on Calcanin midnight. And he was so sorry, he was really, because he left the booty Watson in the hansom cab, and now tell the truth, unfriends never, she was his first Mrs. Doggis, and it was very pretty peltry, and there were faults on both sides. Well, he attempted, or so they say. Ah, now, forget and forgive, don't we all? And sure, he was only funning with his Andrew Martins and his old age coming over him. Well, he attempted, or the Carnegie, he was tempted to attempt some Hunnish familiarities, after eating a bad carp in the rude ocean, and heaven to knows, sure, he was dead sea-sick a bed. It was really too bad, her poor old divorced Mal, in the house pays for the daying at the Martyr Mrs. Macaulay's, where at the time he was taying and toying to hold the nurse-tendered hand, the poor old cooks, and count the buttons in her hand, and frowned on a bad crab, and doing to remember what though they were Bjorn, and who made a snore. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. And where do you leave Matt Emeritus, the lay chief of Abata Bishop, an ex-coloured of French and German? They were all so sorgy for poor Bois Matt in his saltwater hat, with the iron crown, or she grew that out of too big for him, of ornamenty-mops of his overalls, and falling over her in falls. Sure, he hadn't the heart in her to pull them up. Poor Matt, the old peregrine matriarch, and queenly man, the purple blossoming upon them, sitting there, the soul of the settlement, below ground, for an expiatory rite, in postulation of his cause, who shall say? In her beaver bonnet, the king of the Caucasus, a family all to himself, under Giesi, Themistocles, on his multilingual tombstone, like Navalicky Cayman, and she do to kid him by sweet peat time, with her face to the wall, in view of the poorhouse, and taking his rust in the oxite of iron, under the auspices, amid the rattle of hailstorms, Carlo spin the ochromoto kirining, with her ivy-clad hood, and gripping an old pair of curling tongs, belonging to Mrs. Duna O'Connell, to blow his brains with, to the heights of New Ireland heard the Bristlehut, with his can of tea and a purse of Alfred cakes from Anne Lynch, and 2 cuts of Shackleton's brown loaf and dillisk, waiting for the end to come. Gordon Highland, when you think of it, the Merthyr Derthyr, it was too bad entirely, all devoured by active parloursmen, loud abilitor of woman, squelching all on account of the smell of Shackleton and Scratchman, and his mouth watering acid and alcoholic. Signs on the sot, and now pass the loaf for Christ's sake. Amen. And so, and of. Matt and loaf. So that was the end, and it can't be helped. God be good to us. Poor old Martin Cunningham. Take breath. Aye. And still and all at that time of the dynasties, Of old Canning, Soterick, Sulkenboard, and Bargo Muster Bart, when they struck coil and shock haunts in old Hungerford on Mudway, where first I met the old Piotric flayed from May. And the Finnan haddies, and the Knoll sharks, and the Muckstale's turtles, like an acoustic potash in the Grysoper bullium, and how he pulled him up his bucket of water, and got big buzz for his name in the Air Week's honours from home, colonies and empire. They were always with assisting grace, thinking up, and not forgetting about Shims and Shawls Week in Auld Lang Syne up, with their 4 hawsen bands that were 4 up, beautiful sister misters, how happily married unto old Gallstone belly. And there they were, always counting and contradicting every night. 'Tis early the lovely mother of periwinkle buttons, according to the latter part of their anachronism, up 1, up 2, up 1, up 4, and after that there now she was in the end, the dreary souled powder and all, the beautiful sisters, and that was her mud hen republican name right enough, from Alum and Oves, and they used to be getting up from under in their tape and straw garlands, with all the wordies awake in their hair, all the cuckolding a bell ring ring, all wrong inside of them. Come in, come on, you lazy loafs, all inside their poor old Shandon bell box. Come out to hell, you lousy louts. So frightened, for the thing crangavore, like knock-knees bumps by the Finsterman's straits. Yis, yis, at all hours every night on their mistletoes, the 4 old oldsters, to see was the Tristan postscript come, was the old cousins under their armsaxters, all puddled and mythified, the way the wind wheeled the school around, when nobody wouldn't even let them russin from playing their gat-spades, crossing their sleep in the shocking silence, when they were in dreams of yore, standing behind the door, or leaning out of the chair, or kneeling under the sofa cover and setting on the soup tureen, getting into their way something barbarous, changing the one wet underdown vibrational bed, or they used to slumber under, when hope was there no more, and putting on their half a hat and falling over all synopticals and a panegyric, and repeating themselves so surviving, like the time they were dodging the talky cook that chased them. Look, look all around the stool, walk everywhere for a jewel, to break fire to all the rancers, to collect all and bits of brown, the rathur's development of spirits of time in all fathom of space, and slooping around in bawneen and bath slipper, and go away to old Patrick and see the Dr. Walker. And after that, so glad they had their night tentacles, and there they used to be, flapping and cycling, and doing a Dunloop panamantically around the waists of the ships in the wake of their good old Fionn again, as tired as they were, at their wind's widths and the waves' length, the clipper built and the 5 foremasters, and lally of the cleft off baggaderts, and row of the fair cheats, exchanging fleas from host to host with Arthroposophia, and he selling him before he forgot Iseult, after having prealably deflegmatized his gutter full of throaty frogs with a lungeable fong in his sock-mouth ear, while the deer invoked to the cool and dare by a palpabrow's lift left no doubt in his minder, till he was instant and he was trusting, sister soul and brother hand, at the subjects being their passion grand, that one fresh from the cow about Aithne married a married, and that one too from Angravok saga about a gooth a gave, a goth and egg, and the parkside pranks of quality queens, cat after kin, for Earl Hovesoon's choosing, and Hober and Harman, all wend thee upon the Iseult of binoculuses, must egotim, subconsciously senses opers the profundity of multi-mathematical elements of that which itself is itself alone. Here, oh here, Caller Erin, exteriorizes on this our here now plane in disunited, whitened, solid, like word in gauseous bodies, with, science say, pero-whitened passion panting, puno-plangent intuitions of reunited selfdom, murky way, abstruadim, in the higher dimension or selfless ourself, theming nasty meething idleness, and telling Jolly McGoley, dear Master John, the belated dishevelled hacking away at a parchment paid, and all the other analysts, the steamships and the ladies boresome, oven for, naden for, dinkery dock, down a lopping, how long tandem, like a four-tired schoenmasters, and their pair of green eyes and peering in, so they say, like the narcolepts on the lake of Coma, through the steamy windows into the honeymoon cabins, on board the big steamadories made by fumadori, and the saloon ladies' mad-on toilet chambers lined over prawn silk, and rub off the salty catara off the windows, and hee, listening qua committee, the poor old Quakers open the door to see all the honeymooners and the first-class ladies, serious me, alas, springs as you fancy, and sheets far from the lad, courting in blankets and familias, and she, all improper, in a lovely morning toilet, for the rose crumpler, the thrill driver, the sigh inspirer, with that olive throb in his nude neck, and swaying and they and say, thanks ever so much for the tiny quote, which sort of made everything ling again, so very much more delight to fairly. And the perfidly sweet of her bootifully yours, under all their familiarities, by preventing grace, forgetting to say their grace before Chambadori, before going to boat with the verges of the chapter of the opering of the month of Nemakanutu. 'Twas so past the pogue for grace sake. Amen. And all he. Quaking, so fright, and she, shaking, aching, aye. For it was then a pretty thing happened of pure diversion mayhap, when his flattering hand, at the just right moment, like perchance some cook of corage might clip the lad on a poot of porridge, hands shut his duck-house, the vivid girl, deaf with love. Ah, sure, you know her, our angel being, one of romance's fadeless wonder women. And sure now, we all know you dote on her, even unto date. With a queetly cree of Joyce's crisis, she reunited her disunited, with ripey leaps to ropey lopes, the dear o' dears. And the golden importunity of a loofer's leave time, when as quick as greased pigskin, Amoric as champious, with one arrogant thrust, drove the massive of virile victory flish past the both lines of forwards. A Bernia's down, boys, right jing-bang shot into the goal of her gullet. All right. And now, upright and add them, and please be honest, and pull it into yourself, as one man or woman do another. Candidately, everybody, a mot for a mot. Come on, Ming and Doa. There was this, well, you may call her, a strapping modern old ancient Irish princess, so-and-so hands high, such and such paddock weight, in her mad apple smock, nothing under her hat but red hair and solid ivory. Now you know it's true in your heart up hearts, and a first-class pair of bedroom eyes of most unhomely blue. How weak we are, one and all. The charm of favours fond consent. Could you blame her, we're saying, for one so-called logical moment? What would you do with that so tiresome old milkless a ram, with his tiresome duty peck and his bronchial tubes, the tiresome old hairy Gorongograng beaver, and his tiresome old 26 and sixpenny shoppers plods trousers, and his 30 bob and 9 penny tails plus stoop? Haggis Grostian, it were too exceeding really, if one woulds to offer at sulk an old Virgil a pinge of hinge hit. That mainest thing ever, since Edom was in the bogs novi. No, the dear heaven knows that the farther from it, if the whole stole stale misbe told, whoever the gulpable and whatever the purpose was, the twone togethered, and giving them a host fashionable weathers, they were doing a lally, a dither, a dother, 1 lily 2 dother, 3 lily 4 dother, and it was a 5 full moment for the poor old time-tedders tick-tacking in tank the count, till the spark that plugged the spared the chokey he gripped, and volatile volupty, how breathed are thy lunge-wings. They could hear like a lisp lapsing, that was her night of the truths, tongue plipping out of her chaply a dozy, after where he had gone and poped the questioned, plop. Ah, now, it was too twally terrific, the Mamalujo's. And then after that, they used to be so forgetful, counting Mother Peributs up 1, up 4, to remember the beautiful modern maiden name, for overflowing by the dream of woman the ownerist in 40 lands. From Greg and Doug on poor Greg and Matt and Mar and Lou and Joe, now happily buried, our 4. And there she was, right enough, that lovely sight enough, the girlie born a store, as for days galore, of planks de Gregory, Eggery, oh bunker not Orwin, aye. But sure, that reminds me now, like another tellmastery repeating herself, how they used to be in lethargy's love, at the end of it all, at that time up, always tired and all, after doing the mouse work and making it up over their community singing up the top loft of the voice box of Mamalujo like the senior follies at Merthyr McGree's, squatting round 2 by 2 the 4 Confederates with Caxons the co-sworn, up the wet air register in Old Man's House, Millennium Road, crowning themselves in laurely branches with their cold knees and their poor up quadrupe heads, all asleep and all dolled up, for their blankets and materny mufflers and plimsolls and their bowl of brown shackle and milky and Botherham clots, a potion apiece, a piece a portion, a lip a lip, a lup a lap, for a cup of kindness yet, with hold take hand and nurse and only touch of 8, a lovely monkey bound, and for smell and wait a pinch and prompt poor Marcus Lyons to be not beheeding the skillet on the 4 live of horses, but to pass the teeth for joke's sake, a mensch, when it so happened they were all sick o' more, and by the world forgot, since the phlegmish whoopy cough, for all the possibled, after eat a bad cramp in Johnny McGordy's, and back scrat the poor bed sores and farthing dip their cashcow pandle of magnesium, and read a letter or 2 every night before going to dodo sleep a trance, with their catkin quaffs in the twilight, a capital letter for further auspices, on their old 1-page codex book of Old Year's Eve 1132, MMLJ, old style, their Senkis more, by his fellow girl, the Mrs. Shemans, in her summer seal house ensample, with the Caracoo broadtail, her totem in tutu, final buff noon meal edition, in the regatta covers, obtenable from the author, for to regale their raves by incubation, and lally through their gangrene spectacles, and all the good or they did in their time, the rigorists, for row and omulknory, Conry ap Mole and Lap ap Morion and Buffer ap Matty MacGregory for Marcus on Podix and Daddy de Wire, old bag of broth, beeves and scullogs, churls and vassals, in same, sept and severalty, and one by one, and sing a Mamalujo to the heroist champion of Erin, and his brand Solanders and Gowan, and gone. And after that now, in the future, please God, after non-penal start, all repeating ourselves in medios locos, from where he got a useful arm busy on the touchline, due south of her western shoulder, down to death and love embrace, with an interesting tallow complexion, and all now unites, sans familias. Let us ran on to say Oremus prayer, and homey sweet homely, after fully realizing the gratifying experiences of highly continental evenements, for meter and Peter to Temple and Eslap, for all acquaintance, to Peregrine and Michael and Farfassa and Peregrine, for navigants et peregrinantibus, in all the old imperial and Fionican sea, and for Vogawalo to a yes, you fascinator, you sing a love estimadorian to ladies' eyes. Here's Trix and Dulcie, delightfully ours, in her doty ducky little blue, and rolled his hoop and how she ran, when wit won free. The dimply blissed and awfully bucked, right glad we never shall forget. Though the days is gone, still they loves young dreams, and old Luke with his kingly leer, so well worth watching, and sank us more we possessed of evident notoriety, and another more of his big-timers, to name no others, of whom great things were expected in the foam filming department, for the lives of Lazarus and old Luke's sign, and she hail her cobber Kohinoor, sehet on the praise of a whole Shanghai. Here, oh here, Iseult la Belle, Tristan, sad hero, here, the Lambeg drum, the Lombog reed, the Lumbag fiferer, the Limmy big brazenaise. Anno Domini Nostri Sancti Jesu Christi, 999 million pounds sterling in the blue-black bowels of the Bank of Ulster. Braw bobbies and gold pounds galore, my girlie, a Sunday'll prank thee finely, and no damn lout'll come courting thee, or by the mother of the Holy Ghost there will be murder. Oh, come all ye sweet nymphs of Dingle Beach to cheer Brinna Bride Queen from Sybil surf riding, in her curra of shells of daughter of pearl, and her silvery mon blue mantle round her, crown of the waters brine on her brow, she'll dance them a jig and jilt them fairly. Yera why would she bide with 6 ruby sides, or the grogram grey barnacle gander? You won't need be lonesome, Lizzie, my love, when your beau gets his glut of cold meat and hoss soldiering, nor wake in winter window Macree, but snore snug in my old bow-brigging surtout. Wisha, why won't you agree now to take me from the middle, say, of next week on, for the balance of my days, for nothing, what, as your own nurse tender? A power of high-steppers died game right enough, but who, a cushla, will beg coppers for you? I tossed that one long before anyone. It was of a wet Good Friday, too, she was ironing, and, as I'm given now to understand, she was always mad gone on me. Grand goose greasing we had entirely, with an all-night eider-down bed picnic to follow. By the cross of Kong, says she, rising up on Saturday in the twilight from under me, Mick Nick, the maggot, or whatever your name is, you're the most likeable lad that's come my ways yet from the barony of Bulhermore. Matthew, Marky Hugh, Looky hew, John he wee hew. Ha! And still a light moves along the river, and stiller the mermen ply their keg. Its pith is full, the way is free, their lot is cast. So to John for a John, John a James, let it be.